don't see, those invisible backpacks. And some of that is really heavy on their shoulders that they're carrying every day into school. We've reached our next stop on Ready, Set, Prep roadmap, Relationship Ridge. Now, before we can start preparing our classroom, whether that's with procedures, designing engaging lessons, or decorating our classroom, we've got to start with something that's a little more important: people. Relationships is the foundation of our classroom, and it's something that we have to prep for. Oftentimes we get ready for all of the visible things, right? We hang our decorations, we get our bulletin boards ready, we set up our classrooms, we recognize that we're going to need procedures, but we don't often prep ourselves for what our students are going to need in order to be successful. And this is something that's so important because it often is what sucks a lot of that emotional energy throughout the day. We're building those relationships, we're putting out small fires or big fires with student behavior. And so we have to pull back and we have to prep ourselves for building relationships with our students. Now, the beginning of the school year has always been something that I'm excited about. Way back in the 90s when I grew up, I would get so excited. It's getting close to the school year, and I know that those rosters are going to be hung up. So back then, they were put on the school walls. You would get to go with your parents sometime during the day after they've posted them. There's usually a line already waiting for the office staff to come out and put them on the walls. But you would get to see who your teacher was and also what friends were in your class. And that was something that I always got anticipation for, and still found that I had the same as a teacher. Beginning of the year, you get to find out who's going to be in your classroom, what students you're going to get to work with. And that was always something that was very exciting. So while I inherited that anticipation from being a student myself, something I also inherited were the warnings. Now, those warnings were something where, oh, be careful. This is so-and-so. You've got so-and-so. Oh, I had their brother last year. Ooh, so-and-so's on your list. All of these things I was warned about student behavior. And unfortunately, I started doing that when I would see other teachers' rosters. And every time I did it, I felt a part of that, like, it was hard, right? You join in, it's easy to join in and share like, oh no, be wary of this student, this family. But I always kind of had that like sense of ick sharing it. It didn't feel good saying, oh, you've got the bad student. Not that I said bad student, but just difficult was, how I shared it. And one day I was listening to some sort of professional development and I heard them ask, what if every student got to start the year with a blank slate? And immediately my eyes started to tear up. I couldn't believe that I hadn't given that to my students, right? Every year they take whatever the last year's teacher thought of them with them into the next year. And teachers may not say that, but they recognize that even as a student. Oh, I'm the bad student. Oh, I'm the difficult student. Oh, I'm the one that is the class clown, makes it difficult. They recognize that year after year, they're that student. But what if we changed that for them and we gave them the opportunity to start fresh and to start clean? So before you learn the names of your students, right, they're kind of a list of names on a roster, but before you really get to know who they are and who those names belong to, I want you to think about what those students need from you in order to be successful this year. What are the high achieving students going to need? What are the students that maybe struggle a little bit academically, behaviorally, whatever it may be? What are those students that quiet students need? Pause and reflect and think, what might students need of me? Because when we pause and we recognize Students are going to need different things from us. That prepares us as a mindset. Okay, I'm going in with this kind of mentality. When we approach the year and we don't pause and really reflect what kids are needing from us, we're constantly giving, and we don't really have kind of roots in service, right? Teaching is so much about serving others, right? You're building relationships, you're giving different opportunities to students, providing support where they need it. So when you recognize, okay, what are my students going to need from me? That already kind of sets a tone, like, okay, I'm going to have to give this much. I'm going to need to give this much. And you may need to give more or less, depending on the year. But I think when we recognize that students are going to need certain things from us, we go in a little bit more prepared. Now, something else that I had also kind of changed my mindset with teaching was the idea of the invisible backpack. So I, as a child, went to before and after school care. So I was there for a long time. But a lot of our kids come to school and are hungry, are tired. They may be battling conflict at home, anxiety, all of those things that we don't see, those invisible backpacks. And some of that is really heavy on their shoulders that they're carrying every day into school. And greeting students is one of the most important things, once school begins, because you get to have that opportunity to check in with students. You can see their faces, their body language as they're walking in. And when you greet them, there's an opportunity to change that, welcoming them. Sometimes a simple welcome, a greeting, that can change it. And sometimes it doesn't, but it at least gives you some feedback early on the beginning of the day. Okay, this day's going to be a little bit harder for so-and-so. I'm going to need to give, them a little more space, a little more time, a little more grace, whatever it may be. But all of these things, this invisible backpack, that's something that I really didn't recognize as a new teacher. It wasn't something that I was aware of because I always went to school and just loved it. I loved being there. It was a fun place. It was safe for me, and I really enjoyed it. But when I stepped out of, my own experience and recognized that other students might not have that, it helped me give more grace and be willing to give more for my students to be successful. So think about right now, maybe you're starting the year already, maybe it's in a few days, maybe you've got a few weeks, or you're just prepping your room. Think about where you can build relationships. Is that through postcards? Postcards are so fun because snail mail is so fun to get, even in this digital world. Being able to send something, it's a great way to maybe, students that are anxious, they get something, they're already feeling welcome before they've seen who you are. And if you're able to do that, I think postcards are a great opportunity to set that tone. Some schools have meet and greets. Sometimes they're all day and families can just come. Sometimes it's a limited time, which can be really chaotic. But families also get nervous to come to school. And so building relationships not only with the kids in your class, but their families is essential too, because a lot of times those kiddos go home, they share things, or they're frustrated and upset. And when you're building relationships with the parents or families, and they recognize that, hey, we're all on the same team, we're going to work together, they're more likely to give you grace if something comes up, if there's a misunderstanding, if something, went wrong, or their child felt a certain way in the class. They're more likely to approach it, okay, well, let's talk so-and-so, versus it being, combative. It's not perfect. Building relationships sometimes has this, well, if I just build a relationship, then it will solve all the problem. No, because not everybody is ready to build not everyone in your class is going to be your best friend. The families, there's going to be, reasons why they may have their walls up, but you can still try, and you can still, share that same mentality with them that I'm on your team, we're going to work together. That support. So during those meet and greets, try to introduce yourself to the families, but also have something in the classroom, if it's one of those chaotic, for the kids to get to explore a little bit, do something. Scavenger hunts, I've seen those, and those are really great. If there's a place for families to leave a note for the teacher, the kids can draw a picture, maybe put the supplies away. Those things that kind of allow students to start to recognize the space that they're going to be in, especially for our little kinder students or preschool students that it's their first experience, right? We want to make them feel as comfortable as possible. And so those room tours or scavenger hunts can be a great way to do that. So I want to challenge you to pick something to try the first 2 weeks of school. If you have your Ready, Set, Prep workbook, there's some great ideas in there and some opportunities to reflect. I would encourage you to keep those mindsets of the invisible backpack and that every student starts the year with a blank slate as a way to find what students might need in order to be successful in your class, ways to build trust with families and relationships with your students. Our next stop will be headed over to Procedure Pass, where we'll talk more about routines and procedures and setting up your classroom for success.